Local productions seen on Delta College Public Media are made possible with support from viewers like you. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Mike Redford, and this is the follow-up. Coming up on tonight's show, the bird flu, or the avian flu, and the rising cost of eggs. Some analysts are forecasting we could be paying as much as $7 for a dozen eggs by year's end. Currently, the cost of eggs is more than 50% higher than a year ago at this time. So is there any relief in sight? Why is this bird flu outbreak, which began roughly in 2022 here in the U.S., so hard to contain? Tonight we have three guests who work in the front lines of the poultry industry here in Michigan, including one of the owners of the largest poultry ranch in the state. But first, we'd like to hear from you to help drive the conversation here on the show. You can do that via social media on Facebook. You can email us. You can dial into our follow-up hotline to voice your opinion or suggest future show topics. And if you'd like to watch any of our past shows this season, just log on to deltapublicmedia.org. Well, our guests tonight, all joining us remotely, as you can see, we have Nancy Barr, Executive Director of the Michigan Allied Poultry Industries. We also have Dr. Catilyn Green. She is the staff veterinarian with the Michigan Turkey Producers. And then we have Greg Herbruck. He's the owner of Herbruck's Poultry Ranch in Saranac. By the way, that's the largest poultry producer in the state of Michigan. So thank you all for joining us remotely tonight.
Thank you.
So Greg, I'm going to start with you. What's it like? Right out of the gate, what's the impact on your poultry business, and what needs to be done to improve the situation short term and long term?
Well, we are an egg production company, and this disease has been running rampant across the country now since early 22. Our farm was unfortunately hit in about a year ago right now, April 1 of 24. And when a farm contracts the disease, the federal government comes in and says, we're going to euthanize all your birds. We had 3 farms in Ionia County near Saranac, where our headquarters are. And within less than a week, or just over a week, all 3 farms came down with the disease because it's that contagious of a disease. Once it shows up, it just spreads like wildfire. We were the kind of the epicenter of discovering that dairy cattle can be a reservoir for this disease, and the epidemiology showed that our high-path AI came from a dairy farm in the area.
So did you see it coming? I know we've seen the avian flu in other countries abroad. I think it's been here as early as maybe 2020 or maybe back to 2015. You got wind that something was happening. So were you able to prepare at all?
Well, one of the things is we've just ramped up our biosecurity, and you're living in constant fear that this could hit you. And so it's difficult to prepare for it. You hope it doesn't hit. Once we did get hit, we've done some internal soul searching and preparation. Okay, what was our risk factors? How do we mitigate that risk? And we're in the midst of spending a lot of money, probably going to be over $40 million in our company alone, of practices, of infrastructure to try to protect ourselves, because right now the risk is still the same as it was March 31st of last year, where we were at that same risk. So that's why we've advocated the only way we're going to stop this is that the federal government change its policy and accept a vaccine strategy to help us protect our birds rather than hope they don't get hit.
Got it. And we'll dive deeper into that later in the show. I'm going to move to Nancy Barr with the Michigan Allied Poultry Industries. So Nancy, talk a little bit about your role and your organization and what you're doing to help the poultry producers like Greg, and kind of give us a little wider view of the problem as you see it and how you're handling it.
Right. Well, thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me on. Michigan Allied Poultry Industries is a farmer led association. Our main goal is to speak with one voice for the poultry industry, collaborate with a lot of partners. So we certainly work a lot with the Department of Agriculture in Michigan, Michigan State University Extension. We talk to the legislature so they understand what challenges our industry faces and what sort of things we need. So we are an organization that is made up of second, third, and fourth generation farmers and has been since 1940. So our goal is really to collaborate with each other to make sure we're working together to help each other when something like this happens.
So, how is the word frustration for you and your organization and the producers you represent? Do you feel like it's two steps forward, three steps back, or do you feel like you're making some headway as you think about, the work you're doing along with the state and the feds? Are you working together as one team to try to get any relief here?
You know, this is nobody's normal day job.
Yeah.
So when this kind of thing hits, everybody is all of a sudden doing things that they don't normally do. So, for example, the Department of Agriculture, when they have to step in to help with a response, this isn't what they do every day. So it's a challenge for everybody. My role and my goal is to try to work as closely as I can with the Department of Agriculture and our farmers to try to make sure that the response happens quickly. One of the issues that we can face and we have faced is if we do not respond to an infected farm quickly, then we have a much greater likelihood that there is going to be spread to another farm. So when birds become ill, they shed a lot of virus, and so that virus can spread in the environment to another farm. And so we have work to do to make sure that we can do that even better, and we'll continue to work with the departments to do that. Our farmers have they've been practicing the highest levels of biosecurity for 3 years with this outbreak. The biosecurity is very, very good. Part of the challenge is really really tight farms that practice great biosecurity have still been getting hit by this virus, and we know that the virus is extremely infectious. So we need more research, we need more USD epidemiologists to really look at how the farms are becoming infected, whether it's through air vents, where is it coming in, so that they can really focus energies on that area. But the farmers have been doing the best they can to protect their birds.
And as we're talking about this, we have a graphic to show you and the viewers that how it's spread sort of from one animal to another, including humans. There it is, how it's spreading through poultry and cattle and cats and wild birds even. And I'll talk a little bit more about biosecurity in a moment. Let me go to Dr. Catilyn Green. You're the staff veterinarian with the Michigan turkey producers, so maybe you can let us know kind of what you're dealing with on your end with the turkey population. Bigger issue than chickens, possibly, about the same, and give us some sense of the size and scope of what you're dealing with in the turkey population.
Yeah, well, thanks for the opportunity to talk about all these things. But I would say that our birds, the turkey is more susceptible to the virus than a lot of our other poultry species. And so, unfortunately, turkeys are often the birds that are getting hit earliest. A lot of turkeys were involved in some of the earliest cases of avian influenza in the United States, and they continue to be often involved in outbreaks. And so, I'm the veterinarian for the Michigan Turkey Cooperative. And so, for the last 25 years, we've been a group of farmers who've come together to do the best by our birds and make sure that the customer is getting an excellent, high quality product that fits their needs. And this virus has definitely impacted us in a lot of ways. Much like what Greg was saying, we have spent a lot of time, infrastructure, and money making sure we're doing the absolute best biosecurity we can, everything possible to keep the virus out of the farm and protect those birds from all sorts of diseases, including this one. But as Greg mentioned, the virus has changed a lot, and unfortunately, we are still getting hit.
So I'm going to go back to Greg for a moment, and then maybe you guys can sort of play off each other. Are there some regulatory burdens that need to be altered, simply taken off the books to improve the situation? Greg, as a producer, for example, one issue I know impacting egg supplies are sort of these new cage-free laws in place in Michigan. There may be some other things. What impact is that having on the law? What do you see in terms of regulatory issues and burdens that need to be kind of wiped off the books to allow you to do what you need to do?
This cage-free law that is Michigan is one of 10 states that implemented it. Our industry has been preparing for this for over 10 years. So that has almost zero impact on the
Okay.
price of eggs today. This is 110% about bird flu. And the fact that, last year we lost 43 million hens. This year we've lost 32 million, and most of those are still the layer barns where those hens lived are still empty. And so that's what's impacting price today. If you've noted, you mentioned high egg price, that just in the last 2.5 weeks, the egg prices dropped almost $3 a dozen in the wholesale market. So the retail market will start to reflect that very soon. Consumers got to the point where they're just not going to pay those high prices, and so that causes the market to fall, even though we are still roughly 30 million hens short in the country.
Okay. So Brooke Rollins with the U.S. Department of Agriculture has laid out a $1 billion plan to attack the outbreak of bird flu, avian flu. You guys have seen it. One is implanting biosecurity measures, providing financial relief to farmers, new vaccines, and maybe therapeutics for laying chickens. Any of you want to attack some of that? Does it make any difference?
If I could just jump in, this disease is called a foreign animal disease, and it's classified as such. And so the government's policy is to stamp it out, which means when a farm gets it, they come in and quickly as they can, euthanize all the birds on the site. Well, that's what we're into our 4th year of that, and it's time to recognize that that's not working with this virus, as it mutated and changed so much. That's why we're advocating we need a vaccine to help us protect our hens. We give multiple different vaccines to our hens to protect them from other viruses and bacteria, and this could easily be bolted on to our existing programs, and hopefully give us the chance to not go in there and kill all our hens or all our turkeys, but to protect them, and that they get through, help them fight the virus off, and they continue on production.
So Nancy, I don't know if you can follow up with that in terms of maybe explaining, clarifying what are these biosecurity measures are, and do you have a voice in the state of Michigan with the Brooke Rollins, the feds, in terms of implementing some safety measures here?
Well, so let me start with the biosecurity measures that USDA has proposed. One of the programs that they are talking about funding with this money is a very good program. It's through the United States Department of Agriculture's Wildlife Services. And they have wildlife biologists who specialize in understanding how wild animals are behaving around farms and helping farmers to determine where that could be a risk. So areas that could create good habitat for wildlife, for example. And so that is one program that we're very supportive of. I agree completely with Greg that we need a vaccination to protect our birds. Not all the time, perhaps, but certainly when we're in the face of an outbreak and with laying hens and turkeys. So, we have seen other countries where vaccination has been used very effectively, like France, for example, where the level of infection is dramatically decreased when there's a vaccination used. So we're very supportive of that. We do, our cage-free law, as Greg mentioned, has been in the works for many years. So the amount of money and the changeover that our producers have already done, that's in place, that is done. We think it's the best thing for the birds, and we're proud of what we've done here in Michigan. So we don't want to lose that law. And like Greg said, that's not what's impacting the prices of eggs right now.
You know, on that note, I don't know if you can answer that. Do you know how Michigan stacks up or compares to other states when it comes to this kind of outbreak, like a Minnesota or an Iowa? Do you know? And if
Um,
our regulations are similar, are we fighting it the same? Are the outbreaks there more severe than what we're dealing with?
well, in some places, certainly, Minnesota, for example, is an area where there's a high density of turkey production, and so when they get hit, that's why the response is so important to be quick, so that they can prevent spread. Right now, Ohio is having a lot of cases, so it depends on where the wild migratory birds are flying and the density of poultry operations in an area. So we have been very fortunate. We were hit hard last year, but our producers really are doing a good job of making sure that they're protecting their flocks. But we do need help from the state government when it comes to response, and we would like to see that they are well funded and well prepared so that when these sorts of things happen, they can help us as best as possible. As far as a voice, our industries mainly speak from the national level through National Turkey Federation, the American Egg Board, United Poultry Producers, the Chicken Council. So all of those groups, we talk to them and they have that voice in Washington. But we talk to our local legislature so that they understand our issues here in Michigan and what sort of things we need to combat this. We're very fortunate in Michigan to have a lot of local produce and poultry. So we have local eggs, we have local turkey. You heard from Michigan Turkey Producers, which is a farmer-owned cooperative, and they produce amazing turkey products. So those are sold throughout Michigan. And then we have Miller Poultry in Indiana, where we have a lot of growers for that broiler company here in Michigan. So in Michigan, we have a lot of local foods, which I'm not sure people realize, but it's our goal to protect that food source and to protect our birds. Our poultry welfare is absolutely one of the most important things that we consider.
Yeah. I have to ask this question on behalf of some of these families, smaller farmers, or just folks in neighborhoods that are raising backyard chickens, chicken coops to get eggs. We bought them from some neighbors recently. What, if any, impact is this outbreak having on them? Do you think you'll see a trend for more small families deciding to raise some chickens? Smaller environments, is that the way to go? Any of you guys can take that question and get that started. What do you say to the sort of the neighborhood backyard chicken farmers out there?
Well, I guess I'll start and then
Okay.
I'll let the others go. I'll just be brief. I think it's a wonderful thing if people want to have chickens. It's certainly not less expensive once you raise those chickens and know how much work goes into that and money. And they are as susceptible, if not more, than our commercial birds because they're raised outdoors and they have the risk factors all around them. So we have seen a lot of backyard flocks become hit. So it's not as if having a backyard flock is going to be protecting them from getting the bird flu. They can get it just as easily, if not more. One of the concerns that we have is just that simply maintaining the disease in the environment. And so, sort of the more small flocks that are out there, the more likely that we will have outbreaks of highly pathogenic avian influenza.
Okay. Yeah, Dr. Green, I'm going to go to a different direction unless you wanted to follow up a little more with that. But as we've discussed and as people have learned, the avian flu, bird flu, isn't just confined to turkeys and chickens. That's a large part of it, but concerns with wild birds, cattle, even people, right? So what do our viewers need to know? How concerned should we be about contracting it? That sort of thing.
Yeah, well, I think honestly, the heart to both of those questions comes back to biosecurity. And we say that word a lot,
Hmm.
but really what we're talking about is keeping the outside outside and the inside inside. And so we're just trying to not track things back and forth. And that is really true when it comes to any kind of risk for humans. If you are a regular person interacting with poultry products and others, food products, to consume them through a grocery store, you have zero risk. Cook your food safely, follow package and directions always, but you're not at an elevated risk. If you're working directly with a livestock species, then you should talk to your company and your administration about what those procedures are to protect your animals and also to protect yourself. A lot of what we do has dual purpose in those fields. And so it is a concern moving forward that, government officials are continuing to monitor, but the risk is really quite low. And especially to the general population is, not really there. We have a lot of safety regulations for our food, and that is a really good thing in a lot of ways. And we can continue consuming our poultry products and all of our other foodstuffs, knowing that they are not carrying this virus.
Okay, very good. Greg, I'm going to come to you and maybe follow up with the question I asked Nancy. Small producers better than larger producers, maybe? You've got these sort of backyard farms. I'm sure you've been asked that question. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, I'm in the bird care business, and if I love to talk to people about caring for birds, and that is my passion and my family's passion. If people do it well, then great. I think that some of that is, as Nancy mentioned, you don't save any money, but if it's important for your family to be engaged in producing your food, great. Most can't, and so that's why companies like ours are in the business to care for hens, provide an egg, the egg that they enjoy, and that is the more typical way for folks to do it. Um, yeah, again, I get back to this risk from this virus is the same for whether you have more chickens or a few chickens. Um, and we hear about it when a big farm gets hit, but a lot of these small farms get hit because they let them outside. They connect with, either migratory waterfowl or resident poultry or cats or whatever might be having the disease, and they just all pass away and they go get more. Well, when it hits a big farm, then it clicks into a federal government action plan. And unfortunately, when a big farm gets hit, it impacts the supply in the region or beyond.
So, Brooke,
And I'll just
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'll just quickly echo, we spend a lot of time and effort making sure that our animal welfare, our bird welfare is excellent. And a lot of the same reasons we bring our birds inside and in groups are the same reasons we live in houses and in communities. We're safer indoors. We don't have to deal with predators and bad weather. And it does sometimes buffer and protect our birds from disease. And so I absolutely echo, if you are able to and can afford to produce some of your food yourself, that's amazing. But to have a reliable and safe food supply for everyone, it is necessary to have our animals in these really safe, protected, and well controlled environments.
Okay. What,
And
go.
if I could add to that, the trouble with this virus is that it spreads so easily. And in past, we thought it only spread by mechanical vectors, which would be it came on somebody's clothes or carried it on equipment. What we're learning is that it's probably coming airborne, and there's so many ways the virus can become airborne. And then, we have migratory waterfowl and resident birds. All this huge population are a risk to all poultry, and that's the struggle that we deal with, and why I get back to we need a vaccine to protect our hens.
Okay. What I was going to say, going back to Brooke Rollins with the USDA, she even talked about considering allowing the temporary import of eggs. Have you thought about that? Is that sort of a last resort option?
From that, I'm in the egg business. There just isn't this massive uh, amount of eggs that are waiting to be imported into another country. So it has a small effect. I think the biggest effect was that on the egg market that people said, wait a minute, that's too much. I'm not going to buy them. The egg market's fallen over the retail, or excuse me, the wholesale, over $3.50 in just like 10 trading days because of this change. It's an extremely volatile market with a fresh product like an egg.
So, Nancy, maybe I ask you, and maybe all of you, do you think there has been a sense of urgency at the state and federal level to this? It's been around for a couple of years. Or has it taken some time for them to have a sense of urgency, particularly with the consumers crying, hey, I'm spending $7 to $10 for a dozen eggs? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that there could be a bigger sense of urgency, especially when, like Greg talked about, we found out that the cattle were a vector for this disease, and in fact did affect our farms, that the virus that had come directly from the cattle. We need to be able to move quickly using science, using common sense to stamp this problem out. And Greg is correct. We are not going to do that without a vaccine, and we're not going to do that without really having a good conversation about the impact of this virus and the threat it poses, not just to poultry, but to other mammals and people.
All right. Well, I'll leave it at that. Nancy Barr with the Michigan Allied Poultry Industries, Dr. Catilyn Green, the staff veterinarian of the Michigan Turkey Producers, and Greg Herbruck, owner of the Herbruck's Poultry Ranch in Saranac. Appreciate the discussion and the conversation. You've got a big job ahead of you. Our hearts go out to you, Greg, running that, third or fourth generation poultry ranch that started, by your grandfather way back when? You said in the 20s, right?
Yep. Yes, it did.
Well, we are with you, my friend, and we pray that we get a solution and you can continue to have a lucrative, viable business for many more generations. Thank you. And that's our show for tonight, but be sure to join us again for the follow-up next Tuesday night. State lawmakers and the governor are pitching a variety of new proposals to fix our roads. Some plans are calling for major tax increases. Other plans don't. So what's the catch? That's next week, right here on the follow-up at 8 o'clock sharp. We'll see you then. Well, welcome to the follow-up after show, our web extra for the viewers that watch the big show. And we've got a lot more to talk about here in the after show. We've been focusing on the bird flu and the avian flu and its impact on producers and the like and consumers. With us, of course, remotely are our three guests who joined us in the big show, and they join us in the after show. Nancy Barr, Executive Director of the Michigan Allied Poultry Industries, Dr. Catilyn Green, the staff veterinarian with the Michigan Turkey Producers, and Greg Herbruck, owner of Herbruck's Poultry Ranch in Saranac, again, the largest poultry producer in the state. So, Greg, I'll just start with you because you're there. I think our viewers would like to know a little more about you and your family. We didn't get into that in the big show. How long has Herbruck's been around? It spans many generations, right?
Yes, it does. My grandfather, Harry Herbruck Sr., started a company in Flint, Michigan, of butter, eggs, and cheese. And his egg supply came from back in the day in the 30s and 40s, or 20s, 30s, and 40s. Everybody had 100 chickens. And 100 or 200. He'd go buy their eggs from them, bring them back and process them and package them, then distribute, kind of a mini food service company back in the day. My father split from his father's company and bought an egg farm in Saranac, and then also did work with his dad on buying those eggs from all the neighborhood companies and distributing eggs. So that was kind of the foundation. As my siblings and I grew up into the business, my father expanded it so that we could have a job and we just really loved working together as a family, and that the heritage that my grandparents, my parents, and my siblings, we hope to pass on to our next generation that's coming along. There's a fourth generation that we hope to encourage them to stay in the business and to do well with supplying to our customers.
Which would be great to pass on to the next generation, because you know a lot of sort of family farms out there, different lines of agriculture. Some of the next generation say, man, I can't do this. But it sounds like you might be in good shape there, despite what you guys are going through right now, right?
Yeah, yeah, that was a devastating blow to us to contract bird flu, to lose 6.5 million hens in just over 8 days, um, was just devastating. And you know, we had organized with some of our peers to help supply our customers in while we were trying to repopulate, and then they'd get hit. So this has been the story going on across the country, that we work a lot together. It's a small network of family farms, and it's just been devastating by how many have been impacted and lost their hens. Uh, some farms 2 and 3 times getting impacted. So that's why I echo back. I keep circling back. We have been trying this program. Federal government's done a good job. The virus has mutated so much that we need a vaccine to protect our hens.
Right. Nancy, with the Michigan Allied Poultry Industries, listening to Greg, I know you have a heart for what he's doing. You know him, you know what he does, you know a lot of the producers in the state. You just got a feel for them. And I know you're working closely with them to come up with a solution, right?
Well, I do feel for them. And, I've worked with, in my previous job, I worked with the poultry producers, and that's how I got to know them and came to do this job. And one of the things that I'm so proud of, and I enjoy doing my job so much, is that these are just really great family farmers
Yeah.
who work hard. And, the impact of avian influenza has hit all of them, even those that didn't get impacted, because everyone is afraid. And just the mental toll that it takes to lose this many animals is so hard. But our producers and our farmers have just come through this with tremendous faith, perseverance, a tremendous amount of hard work. And I couldn't be more proud of the farmers that we have in Michigan and what they do to produce the food for us.
Yeah, and Dr. Green, Catilyn Green, with the turkey producers, can you somehow compare the size of Greg's farm, the Herbruck's farm, to the producers you represent? It's similar in size, and you work alongside a lot of these family farms that, like Greg, they're hurting right now.
Absolutely. So our individual family farms are smaller. Unfortunately, we have had more cases or infections of highly pathogenic avian influenza. And so we have also been tremendously impacted. I think the other aspect to this is when these farmers and these families built our cooperative, they were able to expand opportunity and jobs, beyond that in transportation and marketing and processing. And those folks are also impacted. And so the weight of that weighs very heavily on all of our growers and farmers as well. So it's a lot of people who are really pulling together and working across the poultry industries within the state and at the national level. And we're really looking for that next step to partner and improve the situation with the USDA and state officials so that we can really make some headway.
Okay, Brooke Rollins with the U.S. Department of Agriculture, we talked about a little bit in the big show, believes, she says this, that the USDA plan can restore the stability to the egg market in the next 3 to 6 months. Nancy, do you think that's realistic? And then I'd like to hear Greg's assessment as well.
I think that the egg market is completely dependent on the supply, and that is completely dependent upon whether or not avian influenza continues to circulate and hit farms. We always tend to see a bit of a dip in infections during the summertime months. sun and heat aren't good for the virus, so it decreases. We'll probably see that, and during that time, egg farms will be able to restock and we'll get the supply back. But if they continue to get hit next fall, then we're going to be back in the same position. So we do need vaccination. We need another solution.
So Greg, follow up with that. Do you concur with that? And what does your crystal ball say for the future of your poultry ranch?
Absolutely. The risk, the fear that we deal with every day is the same. We've got to come up with a new plan, and we get back to vaccines. We want to provide a great product for our customers. They love what we do. But, I think there's been peaks and valleys in the egg market. We were at a big peak. It's falling rapidly now. Consumers just won't pay for some of those high prices. So the solution to high prices is high prices. And now it's the wholesale market has dropped dramatically and still dropping. So we'll get back to a normal here fairly soon. We've got the Easter market coming, and then post Easter is always kind of a doldrums in our market, and that will be a time where we'll probably see if we can reset to a more normal levels of pricing for our consumers, and we are the same. We just hope to get back to normal.
And we all hope that as well. That'll have to be the last word on the after show, the follow-up after show. Greg Herbruck, good luck to you with the Herbruck's Poultry Ranch. Dr. Catilyn Green with the Michigan Turkey Producers, thank you. And Nancy Barr, again, with the Michigan Allied Poultry Industries. You're all working together to provide a solution, and we appreciate you spending the time on the follow-up and the follow-up after show. Thank you very much. And thank you, our viewers, for joining us on the follow-up and the after show.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And make sure to click that bell icon to stay notified when we upload new content. Videos like this are only possible because of viewers like you. To help support this channel, click on the link in the description below. We'll see you next time.